Sedans are dead, right? I mean, everybody buys SUVs now. And yet today we are looking at a car. And it looks more alive than most vehicles I see on the road. It has this rounded shape. It's almost slippery. It's got these big headlight eyeballs and a tail, a literal tail at the back. I mean, it looks like some sort of organism. Now, I'm sorry if you thought that was a little weird, but today we're looking at a car that's a little weird. It's the Hyundai IONIQ 6. It's the World Car of the Year, and they're for sale right now on CarGurus. So don't forget to subscribe to the CarGurus YouTube channel as we take a closer look. The IONIQ 6 has an incredibly distinctive silhouette, even more so than its sibling, the IONIQ 5. It's surprisingly long. At 191.1 inches, it's longer than a Kia Sorento. At the front, we have the familiar parametric pixel LED headlight design reminiscent of the IONIQ 5, and below those, Hyundai has equipped active grille shutters to help keep things even more aerodynamic. Unlike the IONIQ 5, this insanely streamlined profile is as slippery as it looks, with a 0.22 drag coefficient. Undoubtedly helping that number are the door handles. Walk up with the key in your pocket and voila! 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 I forgot the line. Walk up with the key in your pocket and voila! They present themselves. Now this is a cool party trick, no doubt, but it's one we've seen before, and I know that some of you are watching this and thinking, well, that's just one more thing to break. So let us know in the comments. Are you pro power flush door handles? The IONIQ 6 has two sets of wheels, an 18-inch pair that comes on the base model and I'd describe as spicy, and these 20s, which you can get on the SEL and limited trims. I would describe these as violent. Our car is painted ultimate red, and Hyundai also sells this in a digital green. And here's a tip, if you show me a green car, I'll probably like it. Other than those, it's your regular and familiar arrays of blacks and whites, silvers, grays. There is a gold that I really want to see in person because maybe it's time to bring back champagne paint colored cars. Do you agree? At the rear, this spoiler is about more than style, it also aids in the car's aerodynamics, and that's a common theme. I think that this is the IONIQ 6's best angle in large part due to that spoiler and these parametric pixel taillights. They are cool up front, but even better back here. It is less futuristic in here than it is out there, but there are still some pretty high-tech and cool features. For instance, the lights on the steering wheel in the IONIQ 6, they actually show you some different status indications. So for instance, if I put it into reverse, these lights glow red. If I put it in drive or park, they go back to blue. And it works for the sport mode and the eco mode as well. Sport, red, eco mode, green. That's pretty cool, but otherwise, there's not a lot in here that's going to throw you for a loop. I mean, Hyundai's dual screen layout, this is actually getting pretty familiar by now. And then there are some retro touches in the IONIQ 6, except I don't think that Hyundai necessarily intended them to be retro. First, the window switches are on the center console rather than the doors. They're also square plastic switches which don't feel great. Now Hyundai put those switches in the center because the door panels are almost completely buttonless. And while I appreciate the aesthetic of these buttonless, swoopy doors, they look great, it's definitely a form over function experience, at least for me. I would rather something that's a little more boring and a little more practical. Now the car we're driving in is not cheap. It has an as-tested price north of $57,000, and that's a lot. The worst part is that while plastic isn't bad, it's not what you want to find all over the place in a car that costs almost 60 grand. And you get in the Hyundai, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of plastic everywhere. I mean, we've got these nice textured surfaces, but then when I touch them, it becomes clear that there is actually a lot of plastic components. They're just hiding in plain sight. This center console has a huge open space below, which is a big benefit of the EV's lack of a transmission tunnel. And the bin back here houses two USB-C ports to go along with the USB-A data port up front. Unfortunately, my headroom is suffering from what appears to be a poorly placed steering wheel. It just feels too high. I'm 5'11", and by the numbers, I should have plenty of headroom in this car, but I couldn't adjust the seat and the wheel to provide me a good view through the wheel to the display, a nice arm angle, and good headroom. So I ended up compromising. I have the headroom. My arms could be a little lower, and I can't see every corner of the display. The rear seat offers great legroom and enough headroom that I don't feel like I'm hunched over. However, the rear seat is situated a bit too low for a relatively high floor, and that results in a lack of thigh support. Also, if you do hit a good bump, I think my head's hitting the ceiling. Cargo volume is rough. There's basically no front trunk, just this little cubby better suited for a charge cable, and the rear trunk is only 11.2 cubic feet, which is very small. That's more than 2 cubes less than a BMW M2, let alone the IONIQ 6's actual competition, the Tesla Model 3 and the Polestar 2. Hyundai sells a few powertrain variations in the IONIQ 6. The SE rear-wheel drive long-range models, they have a 168 kilowatt motor that's good for 225 horsepower, and it pairs with a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now that beautiful combination is good for up to 361 miles of driving range, and that number, more than anything else, is what makes the Hyundai IONIQ 6 noteworthy. Now, if you get all-wheel drive, it adds another motor to the mix and brings horsepower up to 320. That's pretty good. It also uses the same 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, but because of the additional power, it's now down to 316 miles of range. Of course, if you get the SEL or the limited trims, well, those have 20-inch wheels, and that hurts efficiency. So those with rear-wheel drive, you only get 305 miles, and if you do add all-wheel drive, like our test car has, well, then the number drops to 270. Personally, I would rather have more driving range than more power, but I'm not going to deny that the 320 horsepower is pretty nice, and the 446 pound-feet of torque, well, that is really nice. Acceleration is delightful, as it is in most electric cars. There's nothing quite like the silent, rapid power delivery that you can experience in an EV. It doesn't have the same kind of drama, but this will still cook your typical V8 pony car. Handling is a mixed bag. The steering feels great, very direct and quick, and the suspension does a nice job of absorbing bumps. But the IONIQ 6 feels uncomfortably heavy for its size. All that weight translates to a lot of inertia through the corners, and the IONIQ 6, it just never feels quite as composed in really aggressive driving as I would like it to. Now, if you're gonna buy this EV, well, then you should be doing so for the fuel efficiency, because yes, even though this is an electric car, we can still talk about efficiency. During testing, our car was traveling about 3.5 miles per every kilowatt hour of energy consumed. And that's really good. But here's the rub. In order to see that kind of number, you're gonna have to practice some serious self-control, because every time I started playing with the throttle, I saw that number drop. So get into the 320 horsepower, the 446 pound-feet of torque, well, you're not gonna see a number that you like. Truthfully, I think the 225 horsepower is all you need in this car, and the 361 mile driving range, well, that's outstanding. That equates to 140 mpge, or about 4.6 miles per kilowatt hour. I mean, if you can get away with rear-wheel drive instead of all-wheel drive, then I say go with the SE rear-wheel drive extended range model, because it really is what makes the IONIQ 6 a standout in the EV segment. This can do a lot. Now, unfortunately, the Icon's still all look a bit too similar, and the responsiveness is not quite as fast as I would like it to be, and together that means that you end up taking your eyes off the road longer than should be necessary. Also, while we have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, they still require a wired connection. Now, there are benefits to using a wire, but when the competition increasingly showcases wireless CarPlay, Hyundai's at risk of being left behind. But back to what it can do. Basically, everything that we talk about in these reviews, satellite radio, navigation, smartphone projection, yada yada, it can do all of that. But being an EV, it can do some EV stuff too. The navigation system can find charging stations along your route. It can also update, finding new battery charging stations along your route as the vehicle's battery depletes. And critically, it has the capability to show you how many chargers are currently in use at those stations. Hyundai BlueLink offers remote access, remote start, a remote control for charging, remote diagnostics, a vehicle tracker and finder, a voice recognition system. All of that stuff comes as complimentary. It's free. Now, by my research, a lot of automakers offer some of that stuff for free, but no automaker except for Hyundai offers all of it for free. Now, safety comes free too. SmartSense comes standard and is equipped with an impressive array of driver assistance systems. Now, if you move up to the SEL trim, you get Highway Driving Assist 2, and that can help maintain distance. It'll adjust the positioning of your car if a car in the adjacent lanes gets a little too close. It can even assist with lane changes. And it uses machine learning to help figure out what your tendencies are in terms of vehicle spacing and acceleration. It's really impressive stuff. And if you go all the way up to the limited trim, you get those features plus the outstanding blind view monitor system. The biggest thing working against the 2023 Hyundai IONIQ 6, at least for now, is its price. The starting price is a frighteningly high $46,615, which includes the $1,115 destination fee. But get a limited all-wheel drive model like our test car here, that could be as high as $57,425. That's what we're working with. Like the IONIQ 5, the IONIQ 6 should be getting an SE standard range model. It'll be a little cheaper and it's going to show up later this summer. But it's still likely going to cost over $42,000, and that's including the destination fee, and it only gets 149 horsepower and a 240-mile driving range. And both of those figures, well, they really strip away a lot of the things I like about the IONIQ 6. I recommend a rear-wheel drive SE extended range model because the 361-mile driving range really is this car's differentiator. But let us know what you think in the comments section. Would you take a decontented SE model and enjoy that driving range, or is 270 miles plenty given our car's premium comfort and safety features? As always, thank you for watching and subscribing to the channel. Head over to CarGurus.com and shop for an IONIQ 6 right now, and we'll see you next time.